Hi everyone, I'm so sorry for the delay. We had a bit of a hiccup there with the technology, but I think we are ready to start now. Sorry about that. All right, so I am Vivian from Gynzy and I work on the content. So that means working with our authors who are teachers or former teachers who work with us to create lessons. So that's part of what I do, and I also run these professional development sessions. All right, so hello to everyone in Milwaukee. Hope you're all doing great today, and let's get started. So, you all probably have Gynzy accounts already. I know you log in through your Google accounts. So, when you do log in, you'll get to the library, and we'll go down this left side. So, you'll see your initials up here in that left corner. So that's how you'll know that you are logged in. So if you click on that, you'll see your name, and you can also have the option to go into your profile and settings. So in here, you'll be able to change your name, your email, country, and language. And you can also check the grades that you teach. So this won't affect the content that you see in the library, but it will help us know what grades our teachers teach so we can create more content for those grades. And since you're all in the Milwaukee Public Schools, your school should already be here and you should be approved. And down here, you can change your password. You can also connect your Google account, which may already be connected for you. All right, so we'll go down this left side. So these three icons here, we won't be going into much detail during this session, but if you do have specific questions about them, I can answer them at the end. So this is our student manager icon. In here, you can manage your students, either from Google Classroom or students that you've just added to Gynzy. With these students, you can use our new tools that we have. This clipboard icon is for our assignments. So this is a brand new feature that was just released last week. It is in the very initial stages of it. So still kind of like a sneak preview of what is to come. This is where you can assign different exercise problems that correspond with lessons to your students. So right now we just have math, but we are working hard on that. So a bit of a preliminary feature. You can kind of go in and see what there will be. All right. So we'll go on into the library. So I know many of you are probably familiar with the old Gynzy. So this is like a new introduction to the new Gynzy. So I'll give quick introduction to it. So Gynzy is an interactive whiteboard software with content for K to 8 and the subjects math, language arts, science, and social studies, as well as some different themes and extras, including games and activities. So, math and language arts are aligned with Common Core standards, and science is aligned with Next Generation Science standards, and social studies. For social studies, we took a look at a few different state standards and made a comprehensive curriculum for Gynzy. All right, so our agenda for today, first I will show you how to find the lessons and content that you want to use from the library. Then we'll go through how to use the whiteboard. And then we'll talk about how to customize lessons or activities that you see in the library. And lastly, we'll go over how to create your own lessons in Gynzy. Between each of these segments, I will be answering your questions. So please ask any questions that you have in the chat at those times. I have a feeling we're going to answer a lot of your questions in the session, so you can hold back on those a little bit so as not to clutter the chat as much and to make it easier for Lisette and Nick to moderate that. So let's get started. So we're in the library right now. It is separated into two sections, the lessons and tools. So we have our core subjects over here, and check out math right now. So one way that you can use to go find the content that you want is by going to the subject. So this is all Common Core language. You can look through this. You can also filter by the grade level. So just check the box for the grade that you want. You'll be able to find lessons for that grade. We'll uncheck that for now. We'll go back using this button. Now we're back into the main library, and we'll go into language arts. This is also some Common Core language, and as you go through, maybe you'll want to look for lessons about phonics and word recognition. So here you can scroll through, load more lessons as you go down, and you'll notice for each of these content items that it'll say the type of content, title, and then the short description or the learning objective. Then down here, you'll see open and info. So if you click on open, it will open the lesson right away. If you click on info, it will bring up information about the lesson. So you'll see the title, type of lesson, and the grade levels, and you'll see who it was created by. So if you see who it was created by an author who works for us. So once again, teachers and former teachers who create lessons for us. As you scroll down, you'll see the information for each lesson. Here you can look at the standards and the learning objective. And then you can also open it on the board if you want to from there. We'll click out of that for now. Go back into the main library and we'll go down into themes. So in themes, we have lessons for different holidays, different seasons. You may see those featured in our newsletters, the ones that Nick does. And then we'll go into our morning routine. So some of these are templates, some of these are presentations. You can use these as is or change them up however you'd like. We also have social emotional learning lessons. So a lot of these are full-length lessons and presentations for topics like mindfulness, feelings, emotional literacy, mental health. But we also have these activities. These are like a collection of activities for students to think about and observe, talk about their emotions and learn how to regulate those. So we have those for K to 3 as well as 4 to 8. So you can take a look through those. We also have character ed. And so take a look at some of these. Teaching about conflict resolution, responsible citizens, as well as health and safety, like washing your hands. So go on back and we'll go into extras. So in extras, we have different templates that we talked about earlier, as well as activities and games. So as we go through these, we have different templates for base 10 blocks and money, and as well as different letter activities. Right, we also have different games, and any of these you can add into lessons that you're using. You can have your students play these. They have QR codes that they can scan and just play right away. All right. So now we'll check out our tools. So these top 5 tools up here are to be used with our student manager. So if you have your students in there, you can use these tools. All right, so next we have birthday cake, one of our most popular tools. You might remember it from the old board. Let's take a look at this. So this will work great if you're teaching from home or in the classroom. So you can type in your student's name, put their age, and also pick the color of cake. Pick a background, and then we'll decorate it. However you want it, you can have the student decorate it, or you can decorate it. Maybe we'll put a carrot on there. It's good. Hit done. And then we'll start the celebration. It will have you blow out the candles with this meter on the side. And then it will sing happy birthday, play happy birthday. All right. So let's go back into the library. There are maybe some other tools that you would want to look at, like text-to-speech or embed video. Talk some more about those in a bit. Moving on down this left side, we have our lessons. So in here, you'll see all of your lessons and folders. You can add a new folder and choose how they're sorted. And you can click on something once to access these other options. And same goes with folders. If you click on something twice, it will open it up. So it'll open up the folder or the lesson. Now, you guys are a part of a district, so you will have the shared part as well. So this will be shared with your school and district. You'll have two folders here. So if I double click on school, I'll see all the folders and lessons that are shared with my school. So that means that I can collaborate and work on lessons with other teachers in my school. Anything that is saved here will be accessible by other teachers. You can use them, work on lessons together, just like that. Same sorting functions here, new folder, stuff like that. Makes it much easier to collaborate and team teach. Same with the district folder as well. Similar options there. All right, so next we get to this yellow heart icon. This is our favorites. So let's go in there. It comes with a preset favorite. So all of these. If there are some of these that you feel like you might not use as much, you'll go to the pencil icon, click on that, and then click on the trash can to delete it. You can also rearrange them, organize them however you'd like. So the favorites is intended to keep your most used tools and lessons and activities. So to add favorites, we'll go back into the library. So you can currently just add favorites from the library. So maybe we'll add in Group Maker, text to speech, and embed video. Okay, and then let's add a couple lessons too. So I'll add this one, and we will add the Halloween lesson this year. So going back into favorites, we'll see that those were added, and we can also decide to put them over here. Maybe we'll put this tool over here and organize it like that, however you want. Just like that. So these favorites will be available on the board as well. So they'll be right at your fingertips. I'll show you what they look like. As we move on down this left side, we have this orange button right here. So this orange circle with a scribble on it. This is kind of like a magic button. So this allows you to toggle back and forth from the whichever one of these icons you have selected and the whiteboard. So if I click on it right now, it goes back to the birthday cake that we had earlier. But I will start a new slide right here. So now we have a new lesson, and if I want to go back, it goes back into my favorites. And if I go into the library, I can go here as well. Another note for favorites, you may want to favorite any lessons that look good that you might want to look back at later. Say you want to look at any lessons like that. Also, if you're opening any lessons and you want to go back and find more lessons, kind of close out of the lesson, you can just click on this button to toggle back to the library, find another lesson, and open it up. All right, so that was how to navigate the library. Now we're going to talk about how to use the board. So we have this arrow tool here. This is kind of our default function. So this will allow you to drag things, move them around, resize, rotate, delete, as well as some other options that we'll go into in a bit. We also have the pencil icon. So you'll see different colors here. And we also have different highlighters here, these checkered ones. And you can also change the size of the pencil. So this works best on an actual interactive whiteboard as opposed to a laptop trackpad. May also work well on an iPad as well, just anything that you can touch instead of drag on mouse, for example. And next we have the eraser tool. So this will erase anything that you've written or drawn with a pencil, as well as some unlocked shapes. You can also erase all. There's different sizes of the eraser. Next, we have the text tool. So anytime you are on the text tool, anytime you need to add or edit text, do anything with the text really, you'll want to be on the text tool. So a lot of it is pretty self-explanatory. These are the alignments, bullets, and numbering. Here you can link to either an external web page or another slide in your lesson. So you just highlight over the words that you want people to link. So if you want to click on something, you'll link to that, highlight over it, and click on it. Hit save, and same for the pages. So just click on the slide that you want to link to. This might come in handy if you want to refer back to a chart or a table. All right. All right. Sorry about that. I was just checking the chat for a second, make sure we were doing okay. All right. So if you want to add in a text box, just click where you want to type. Just type any word that you want. Like Gynzy. And you can also change the color here and change the font size as well as the font. So you have 5 different fonts. All right, so that is the text tool. And now we have the shape tool. So anytime you want to add a shape, you'll go here. We have these shapes right now. So you just pick the shape, the fill color, and the outline thickness and the outline color. So now we're going to add the shape. So we'll just drag and then let go. So that's pretty much it. If we want to make another one, do the same thing. And all of the shapes work like that. These ones right here, these are no fill with the red line through it. So if we do that, we'll make a shape with no fill, basically. So you can see that this part reflects the background behind it. This part, you can see that shape that's behind it. All right, and now we see this familiar yellow heart icon. So if we click on this, we'll see all of those tools and activities that we added earlier. So this is why it's important to add your most used tools here so you'll have them at your fingertips whenever you're working on the board. So whether that's the cover, spin the wheel, text to speech, timers, stuff like that, you'll have them right there ready to go. So if something says tool, if you click on it once, it will be added. So this is our text to speech tool. Let's take a look at this one. So with all of our tools, you can change the settings by clicking on this bottom gear button in the bottom left corner. So with the text tool, you just need to type what you wanted to say. So we'll just have it say hi right now. And you can change the color if you'd like, then hit save. Immediately, you'll notice that the gray color has gotten darker. That means that it has something to say now. So if you click on it, it will say hi. All right, so that is the text-to-speech tool. You can basically get it to say anything. It is basically a robotic computerized voice right now. That is what we have right now. And we'll go back in here. So that was what happens if you open something that says tool on the bottom. It will open up right on the slide that you're on. However, if you're opening up an instruction lesson or an activity or presentation, it will basically be like you're opening it from the library, except it's right here ready for you because it will ask if you want to open this lesson or add it to your current lesson. Right now, we're going to open it as new, and we'll leave that one behind and confirm. So it will ask you that every time you want to open a lesson, if you already have one open, just to make sure that you saved everything. If you have saved everything, it won't ask you that. So just a little precaution in there for you. All right, so we already opened that lesson up from our favorites. I'm just going to add a slide so we can continue showing you this. All right, so next we have this rainbow flower icon. So this will allow you to add in images and videos. So for images, you can pick from the Gynzy image library, which is our Gynzy library that it consists of images, illustrations that our artist has created for us, and also images that we've gotten from our subscriptions to stock photo sites. You can also search the internet for images, so you just type in your keyword and press enter. We do have safe search on for this. You can also add in images from your computer or from Google Drive. You can upload them right into here. You can also add in some videos. We'll be looking at some of these videos later. So you can add in videos from YouTube. So you can either type in keywords and search for them here. We do have safe search on for this. It is a function of YouTube. And if you already have a video in mind, you can just copy and paste that URL in here and hit enter. You should be able to find it. If you cannot find it though, you can go into the embed video tool, click on that, paste that link in there and hit save. And if it's a video that you already know that you want, maybe it doesn't have the correct settings on YouTube, you can still access it here to add it to your lesson yourself. Right, so that is how to add in videos from YouTube. All right, next we have this loose leaf paper icon. In here, you'll be able to access backgrounds, lines, and templates. So for backgrounds, we have regular colors as well as pastel. And so let's take a look at some of these. Just click on it and it will change to whatever color you want, like that. Take a look at these lines too. Same concepts. We have different graph paper and different handwriting lines for different grade levels. So here we have this handwriting line. Let's get rid of this for a second. And you'll notice in this right corner here that you can change the spacing in between the lines. So you can make them smaller or larger depending on where your students are at. We also have different templates. So if you've looked through our library, you'll notice that most of the lessons in there use these templates. So they're also available to you. They're just a great way to speed up the process of creating lessons. Take a look at one of them right now. Let me make sure I'm on a white background first. We'll add in a new slide. This is because whenever you add in a new slide, it does take the background from the previous slide. So we'll add in a template. This one's a pretty standard, pretty simple one. To edit that text that's already there, you just need to go to the text tool and highlight over it and start typing. It's pretty simple. We'll be moving on down this toolbar again, and we'll skip that for now. We'll come back to it later. We have this 3 dots icon. So in here you can display in full screen. You can upload a document, so a Word doc, PowerPoint, or PDF. You can also share feedback. So if you're looking at a lesson in our library and you click on share feedback, we will get the feedback for that lesson and let us know. We always want to know how we can improve from our teachers. It's very important to us. And we also have shortcut keys. So as you get more familiar with using Gynzy, you may want to start incorporating these. They do help save a lot of time. So you might want to add in a few at a time to really get the hang of it. So I'll point out a few that I find very helpful. We'll be talking about these more in the coming sections. All right. So show guidelines. This is the slash key. This will allow you to align things on the board. Next, we have the navigation. So this is the arrow keys on your keyboard. Next, we have the editing ones. So these are pretty standard, but super helpful and not at all hard to learn if you have been using these on your computer. I find that select everything and lock and group are very helpful. And you can also change to different modes. I find myself using the text mode selection, that keyboard shortcut, the most. All right, so you can take a look at those some more as you get more familiar with Gynzy. Next, we have this Files and Save icon. It has these different options for you, so you can start a new lesson right away, open up your folders, save as, and also print. The print function allows you to print one slide at a time. So you can save it as a PDF or print it. In here we have the lesson overview, so you can see how many slides are in your lesson as well as the slide that you're currently on. So you'll see the same options that were in that Files and Save icon. Here you'll see the title of it. So sometimes if you haven't saved it yet, it will say no title, so that's how you'll know. And you can see the different thumbnails for each lesson. If you want to look at them all at once, you can go up here, press that caret icon. Now you're seeing all of them at once. To rearrange them, you'll notice that if I put my mouse over a slide, it will change and you just drag it over. Pay attention to the blue line there, like that. You can also select multiple slides at a time and delete them or copy and paste them. All right, so get out of that. And then next we have these arrow icons here. Same thing as the keyboard shortcut, just lets you go from slide to slide, add a new slide. This allows you to scroll up and down and undo, redo. All right, so that was how to navigate the library and use the board. I will be taking questions now. So, all right, yes, so let me see. If, what's that, Nick can show me. All right. Can this be used with Seesaw? Yes, it can. Basically, wherever you can share a link, you can share Gynzy. So Gynzy does not embed into other software at this point, but you will be able to share it anywhere you can share a link. So you can do that in Seesaw. I will show you how to share a link in a second in the next section. And what if you want to write a student's name so they can learn to write their name? So you can go back into the board and can pull up those handwriting lines. Here, so say you were doing this over a Zoom share and you wanted to write, you can just write their name, share it with them, or you can share the lesson where you've already written their name and they can follow it. So you can use these handwriting lines to do that. I hope that answers your question. All right, another question. How do you add students? It's not linking up with my Google Classroom. I will save that question for the end when I will talk about the student manager. And next, is Gynzy on our desktop or do we have to go in a different way? So we do have Gynzy desktop. You can download that from the website, but your district tech coordinator can also set that up on your computer for you, so you can ask him more about it. Let me take a look at a few other questions. Yeah, I'll talk more about the Google Classroom integration in a bit too. The question was, so when we share to Google Classroom, can the kids interact with it? Like, do they get their own copy of assignment to engagement? Yeah, so whenever you share to Google Classroom, they'll see the link to the lesson. They'll be able to go to the lesson. So once they're in that, they'll be able to interact with the lesson, move everything around, see basically everything except for the guided practice at this point, depending on which lesson it is. I will go into more detail about the sharing in the next section. Perfect. And let me show how to adjust these lines again in case you need to see it. So it's on this right side here. And this top one is to make them larger, the spacing larger. And then this bottom one is to make them smaller. You can also do this with the other lines like this, just like that. All right, do we have any more questions until we move on? If not, I will go on into the next section about customizing lessons from the Gynzy library. So let's go. We'll look for a lesson about timelines. We'll be talking about how to customize lessons as well as our instruction lesson format. So we'll open up this lesson here and we'll open it as new and we'll leave that other one behind. We don't need it anymore and I didn't need to save it. So I will confirm. All right, so the first slide of the lesson is always the title slide. So you'll see that that template has been used. And up here is the title. Then you have the subcategory and then the learning objective. So this is an I can or I know statement written from the perspective of the student in language that they can understand. And at the bottom right here, you'll see whether it was created by an author. So again, these are teachers or former teachers who create lessons for us. So go on next. I'm using my keyboard shortcuts just to go to the next slide. So our first section of our instruction lessons is the introduction. So here we're bringing in prior knowledge, getting students' brains engaged and ready to learn about this new topic. So in this lesson about timelines, students are putting a familiar routine in chronological order. So right now I'm just going to drag these anywhere. No, this is not correct, but just drag these here. And so whether you're doing this in the classroom up on the whiteboard or you sent this to them to work on their own, after they've dragged here, you can move this cover to check the answer. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about these covers. So you might have seen these in our lessons and other lessons as well. We do use these quite often. What you can do with these is you can drag them or you can delete them. So a lot of the times we'll use these covers to cover answers until you're ready to check if you were correct. Other times we may use larger covers. You can see that you can change the size here. We may use the larger covers to cover certain parts of slides. So if you only want students to focus on one part of it, or maybe you want to slide that cover down as they work on each problem or each section of that slide. It also has some other functions. So they can be different colors as well as blurred. We'll take a look at how that looks. And you can also change how you interact with the cover. So right now we have it to move by dragging. You can also have it hide and reveal on click. So let's try that out. Hit save. You can see right now that it is blurred. And when you click on it, it will reveal the answer. So a couple different ways to interact with these covers. So we do use those pretty often. So if you do see those, they're either click or drag like that. All right, so maybe they got this wrong. Maybe they want to correct their answer. So we'll drag that up there. All right, move on. So then the lesson will talk about, explain the concept for the lesson. And here it's asking what is a timeline? And it's talking and explaining about timelines. They have an example timeline here. So if you were wanting to customize this lesson, maybe you would want to customize this timeline to be more applicable for your students, and maybe you would make it about yourself. So I would like to change the text here. I'm going to change it to my name, but I'm going to go to the text tool and I'll notice that my cursor has changed to that, which means I can click on it and I will type in my name and then resize the text box. Within the text tool, you'll see that there's this box around it and it kind of changes the cursor into this grabby hand. So you can move it around like that. And this, like I just showed, allows you to change the size of the text box. All right, so change the title. Now I'll change this first item here. So I'll change it to my name again. And we'll drag that up here. All right, so now I'm done with the text. And so I will go back to my arrow tool. And I would like to change this picture. Now, since I've clicked on it, I've noticed that this box around it is, well, one is locked. So we're going to unlock it first. You might see a lot of things that are locked in our lessons. We keep them locked so they don't move around as you're working on the lessons. So everything stays organized. And so right now we can see that the text and the image are in one box. This tells me that they were grouped. So they move together right now, but they are two separate objects. So I can ungroup them. And you'll notice that there are now two boxes around these. So I want to keep that text. So I'm just going to click on this image and delete it. So I'm going to add in a different image, and I'm going to go to the rainbow flower icon or media icon and go to images. I'm going to search in Gynzy images. I'm going to search for baby. And I will pick this baby. And notice that I clicked on it one time and it showed up on the board. Most of our things worked like this. So videos, images, they all work like that. So now we've added this image over here, and I'm going to lock it and make sure this is locked too. All right, and you can check if you drag over and they don't pop up, they are both locked, which means you won't accidentally move them around as you're going through your lesson. So if you wanted to customize more, you could keep on doing that. Our website is very, everything is very copy and pasteable. So basically that means anything that you see there, you can copy and paste it somewhere else. So if you had customized this entire timeline, there's another slide that this timeline comes up, and then you can just copy and paste this one there. You don't need to make it twice. So good thing to keep in mind whenever you're working on Gynzy lessons is that everything is copy and pasteable. All right, so next we're going through this lesson. We're scaffolding the different, the parts of the timeline. So here they're just learning about parts of the timeline. And they'll move these covers to see what all these different parts are. All right, so now this is the same timeline as before, but now they're answering questions about it. So they answer questions, interpret that timeline, and move that cover to check their answers. Now we get to our important slide. So this is a slide where we talk about why the subject is important to learn. And I like to think of this as the answer to when students might ask, why are we learning this? When will we ever use this in real life? So we try to connect it to a real world connection that they can relate to. So in this one, they will be dragging these down to see why it's important to learn about timelines. And so now we get into the development or the instruction part of the lesson. So they are looking at this timeline. They're showing, learning that timelines can also include times in addition to years. So scaffolding these different parts. We're going to go on. And this section also includes checks for understanding. So as you go through, you can formatively assess where your students are at. Right, so maybe you'll ask, what time does math class start? And they'll search for math class. We'll see that it starts at 10:15. So then they'll drag to check. Right there, we got a check mark. And if they had dragged that, they would have gotten an X. And here, instead of multiple choice, it is now open-ended. So they've got to find the year on the timeline. Same here. And the person. And this timeline, they're just dragging the sport to the correct place on the timeline. So once they do it, they will check their answer. And next we get to the guided practice or the quiz section. So this is usually about 10 questions. We've got different question types, so fill in the blank, multiple choice, short answer, drag to sort, true, false, stuff like that. So if students answer incorrectly 3 times, they will get the answer given to them automatically. If you just want to see the answer, you can also click on answer to show the answer. So this guided practice will show up whenever you share the lesson with them, but if they are viewing with the link that you share with them, they will not be able to see the guided practice. And lastly, we have the closing section. So this is where students will recall what they learned in the lesson, and the learning objective is reiterated up here. Lastly, they will end with an extension activity or practice problems. In this lesson about timelines, they have an extension activity to create their own timeline. So they're applying the knowledge that they learned about timelines to make their own. All right, so we went through this lesson. We customized it a little bit. We made some changes to it. If you were customizing it yourself, you may have made some more. But anytime you make any changes to lessons from the library, you will want to save those in your folder. So we'll go ahead and do that here. So we're on the quick save or files and save icon. Hit save as. And we will name this, first we'll go to my lessons. And we will name this timelines. Oops. And hit save. So this is in my lessons and I'm saving it in there. So once you have a saved lesson, which we had earlier when we started this, you'll get this share icon here. This is the one that I skipped over earlier. So we did get a few questions on this, so I'll go over this in more detail. So with this, you can share using a direct link. So if you click on this, you can turn sharing on. So if you have it off and someone gets this link, they won't be able to see it. But if you have it on and you send this link to someone, they will be able to open it and they will be able to access and interact with all the parts of it, move things around, do all the activities, except for the guided practice. So you can copy and paste this anywhere you can paste a link. So it will open up in Gynzy, won't embed in anything. And also, you can share using Google Classroom as well. So if you're sharing in Google Classroom, it's a similar experience. You share that link in Google Classroom, students can access it there. So similar thing. All right, so that is how to customize a lesson in Gynzy. I will stop at this point to answer some more questions. All right, so when we share to Google Classroom, can kids interact with it? Yes. Okay. So, yeah, like I said, students can interact with it. You don't need to send all of them different copies. One link is enough for your entire class. So, I like to compare this with Microsoft Word basically. So, if you share a Word doc with someone, they can view it on their own. They can make any changes to it. It won't affect your original document. However, if they want to save it, they will have to save it on their side. So, kind of works like that. So they will have their own copy and goes from the same link. So they'll be able to interact with it as normal. Order to share that other person needs a Gynzy account. No, they do not need a Gynzy account. So the difference between this link here and the one above, you'll see that this one says gynzy.com/teach. This is our public link. So this is available for someone who does not have a Gynzy account, so they can still access that particular lesson that you send. So they won't be able to access the Gynzy library, but they will be able to access the lessons that you send. So that's why it's important to go from this share icon to get this gynzy.com/teach URL instead of just copy and pasting this one, because the teacher.gynzy.com only works if you have your own account. So when the students do their work, they have to save it and send it back to us. Good question. So currently we are working on a way for you to be able to see their work after they finish it. Right now, a lot of our teachers are sending in screenshots of particular slides where they did those activities. That is also what we're kind of working on with the assignments. Okay, so the assignments will allow you to assign different guided practice like questions. So you'll be able to see that. But currently, our teachers are either sending in screenshots of particular slides with those activities, or they're creating Google Forms to do that as a bit of a workaround until we do have a more applicable solution for this. No, it's super important to be able to see student work and progress in these lessons. All right, I'll pause for a second to see if there are any other questions coming in. All right, if there are no more questions, I will move on to creating your own lesson. So to start your own lesson, you can just go to this icon here and select new. So we already had that lesson saved, so it didn't ask us if we wanted to confirm whether we wanted to leave or not. So that's all good. So if you were starting to create your own lesson, you would start a new one like this, maybe pick out a background or use some lines like this, maybe change it however you want, and add some text. I actually have a lesson that I'm about halfway through that I'm just going to show, and I'll model the things that you might do to create your own lesson. So go into my lessons, and it's a lesson about fall. We are fully in fall now. So I'm starting with my title slide. So got my title, but I do need to type in my subtitle. So remember, I need to work on text. So I have to go into the text tool to work on the text. And I'm just going to type in seasons as my subcategory. And everything else looks good. I have an image here, so I'm ready to go to the next slide. All right, I'm going to delete that for now. All right, so we're going to go into this slide, and this is an informational slide about what might we wear in the fall. So I have images and labels. I know this part actually cuts off my face, or my face actually cuts off something here, so I'm going to make sure that I don't do that. All right. So now I won't cover this area over there. All right, so I want to add two more items here. I want to add another image. I want to add pants and shirt, a long sleeve shirt. So I'm going to go into this media icon, the rainbow flower again, type in pants, hit enter, and we'll click on that pants icon or pants picture once, and it gets added right away. And while we're at it, I'm going to type in shirt, hit enter, and this one has longer sleeves, so we'll do that. So click on it, making sure that I am on the arrow tool, our default function, and then we will resize that here, and I'll move it over here. Same thing with the pants. Make that a little bit smaller and drag that down here in line with the others. Now I also want to add these labels. So going to add in some more text. This time I'm adding a text box. So I'll just type it here and we'll add in pants. I do want to make sure that this text is the same size and font as the other one. So I've got 28 school ABC and we've got 28 school ABC. I'm going to click here and drag right there We're going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to make the text box over there. It's a little bit larger for now. It's going to be 2 rows since it is a little bit longer. All right, so we're going to move that back over there, and we're going to go back to our arrow tool. So now we've added in these images and those labels. But since we just added them, they are still unlocked. So we're going to use the arrow tool, put our mouse over it, and you'll see that they kind of pop up like that. So we're just going to go here to this more options, 3 dots icon, and select lock. So now they are locked, and we can test that. If we put our mouse over them again, they don't pop up anymore. So like I said before, we do lock to make sure things don't accidentally get moved around as you're going through the lesson. Now I want to point out something here. So you see this blue circle with the arrows, the little curvy arrows. That is our autosave function. So when that is on, you know that the autosave is on. So the autosave works that whenever you switch to another slide, whether it's previous slide or the next slide, it will save the changes from that slide you were on. So when we go to the next slide, you'll see that those changes were saved. Now you can also toggle this off, and this will kind of work as a presentation mode. So if you are teaching multiple classes, like the same presentation for multiple classes, you can turn that off. So when you go through the lesson with your students, you don't have to reset everything before the next class. So for now, since we are creating a lesson right now, I will turn that back on. All right, so I'm going to go to the next slide, and we'll see that changes were saved up there. All right, so this is a slide that checks for understanding of the previous slide. So you'll see our header up here is not quite centered. So we're going to want to center this. And earlier I talked about a keyboard shortcut called guidelines. So this is the / key. So when I press it on the keyboard, it brings up these red dotted lines, both horizontally and vertically. And so whenever I click on something, it will put these gray dotted lines around it and then these white dotted lines through the middle of it. So to center it, I'm just going to line up the white line and the red line. All right. And then I will lock that. And since I don't need the guidelines anymore, I'm just going to press my / key and those lines disappear. So notice in the last slide, I had this white rectangle behind it. I'm going to add in another white rectangle here. So making sure that I am adding a rectangle, and then I will choose a white fill and a white border color. So I'm going to drag this over it. Whenever you add anything new to the board, it will go on over it. So we kind of use a layering system here. So it may not look like it, but all of these items are layered one after another. It's only apparent here because these are in the same spot. So all we have to do for this is to make sure that we're on the arrow icon, and then we just go to move to back. Now these other options here, move forward and move backward. Like I said, everything is layered. Move forward will move everything forward, move something forward, one object at a time. Move backward will move it backward one object at a time. Move to front, we'll do move it all the way to the front. Move to back like we just did, we'll move it all the way to the back. So move to back was the easiest and quickest option to get this rectangle behind those words. So we'll also lock that as well. We can check, and they are both locked. So now it says drag these circles. So we're going to have to create circles. So a shape, we'll go back into our shape tool, select a circle, and this time we don't want a fill color. That's what that red line going through means, no fill. And we'll keep that same border thickness, and we'll pick a black border this time. So now we'll drag until it's big enough right there and let go. And instead of adding a bunch of circles for them to drag over here, I'm just going to go to my arrow tool, click on it, and go into these more options and select infinite clone. So now I can drag an infinite amount of circles. From here, we're just testing that right now, and I will delete them. So there's lots of ways to use infinite clone. Maybe you want to use them to drag for a chart or to label any sentences. That. And now we're going to look at this mitten here. I'm going to show another feature of Gynzy. So earlier in the other lesson that we were customizing, I was adding in a picture of a baby, and the text and the image were grouped. So now I want to add in a left mitten and then group them together. So I'm going to click here and select duplicate. And I can see it right there. I'm just going to move it up. And I want it to be a left one. So I'm going to mirror it like that. But they still move independently. So using the arrow tool again, I'm going to go over them like that. They have to be unlocked for this to work, and group them. So now that box goes over both of them and they move together. So if you want to use this, this is great with words and boxes, words and rectangles, for example. You can also put it with text and images, or you can put images together like this. Sometimes we've used this for other lessons like snowman, like we put different parts on the snowman, stuff like that. So lots of ways to use this feature in lessons. All right, so now we're going to add a new slide. And like said before, it takes on the background of the previous slide. But this time I do want to add an image as a background. So I'm going to search for an image here. I'm just going to search for leaves because it is autumn. And I will use this one. So these are backgrounds that were uploaded in our images specifically to be set as backgrounds. So we just added this as a background. So now it's like part of it. It doesn't show up as a picture anymore. It's basically, like it's a background. So now we're going to add in a video, and I want to find a video of fall songs. So here we've got fall songs for kids. I just typed that in and pressed enter. And like most of the other things in Gynzy, you just click it once to add it, and it's right there. We'll click out of here. And you'll notice that there's this white border around it. If you click on this, you'll be able to move it around, place it wherever you want to go. Maybe we'll put on our guidelines again and add that. And we'll lock it. As soon as we've locked it, that border goes away and we will get rid of the guidelines. If you had tried to drag on the part of the video, it would have started playing the video instead. So just a good thing to remember if you're wanting to move that around. So now we have this video, but maybe we want to make it a surprise. So we'll go into our favorites and we'll add in the curtain tool. So now you can reveal the video. You can use the curtain tool to reveal anything that you want in your lessons. So that. And so now I'm going to say this lesson is finished for now. And I actually want to share this with my school so everyone in my grade level team can use it. So I'm going to select that quick save files and save icon again and save as. I had already saved this in my lessons. I think it is a good idea to have a copy of this if you're putting in the shared folder, just in case something gets changed. So that way you have two places where it's saved. We'll add in a new folder and we'll call it Seasons. And hit that check mark. We'll automatically sort. Then we'll just double click that and we'll name it Fall, not Fall Copy. And then hit save. So now you'll see that the lesson is saved as Fall in Seasons. So that means that this fall lesson is now accessible by all the teachers in my school, and they'll be able to use it and make any changes to it that they want. So same here, the share button is there again, and you can share using a direct link or by using Google Classroom. All right, so that is how to create a lesson. I'm going to open up for a few more. Yeah, so from Dorothy Valentine, is there a place where we can find step-by-step directions for different sections of Gynzy? Yeah, good question. So I will be sending Todd some resources for you to use in our support and our knowledge base on our corporate site. You can see step-by-step videos to do the parts of Gynzy. After this, you will also be able to access this video as well. If you transfer the work to a Google slide, the movable function no longer works, correct? So it is not possible to put Gynzy in Google Slides right now. That isn't a feature that we have at this point. Right now, there is not a way to make the shapes highlight like you're describing there. Very good suggestion. And that ties in with what I'm going to go to next. Next, I'll be showing different resources and how you can get help from us or suggest different ideas for us. Do we have any questions before I start that section? All right, so if you go down in here and to the left, you'll see the help and chat. You may have already seen that already. So in here, you'll be able to send us a message. So if you ever have any questions, big or small, please send us a message here. This is probably the quickest way to get a hold of us. If you want to search our articles, you can do that as well. And if you scroll down in here, you can see what's new in Gynzy. This is the Gynzy Help Center where you can find the step-by-step directions. And down here, you can also see the status of Gynzy. So you can see if everything's working great. And also here, we have our ideas and developments. And here you can see the different things that we have under consideration, kind of see our entire roadmap for how we release things. So you can go in here, and if you want to vote on something, maybe you want to vote on the memory tool. So this is create your own memory game. You can decide how important it is to you and let us know that you want it. And if you want to suggest your own idea, you can go down here to this plus icon and submit your idea. So please describe it as in detail as possible so we know exactly what you want so we can create the best possible feature for you. You can also go in here and see what we are currently developing and also what we have released. So that is our ideas portal. I think I got another question in. Could you link Gynzy to Google Classroom though and have the students log in and get their assignments from there? Let's see. So I'm going to show assignments right now. Now I have this test one. So students can have their own login in Gynzy. So if you see in the student manager, I've made my fake class here, superheroes. So they have their own login information here. Once you create them as students or import them as students from Google Classroom, they all have logins to Gynzy where they'll be able to access those assignments. But yes, they will be able to get the assignments that you send to them in Google Classroom from their Google Classroom. So they do not need to sign in to Gynzy. I hope I answered your question. All right, do we have any more questions? Um, If not, thank you for joining me today. I hope this was helpful. You will be able to access this video later after this is over, so you can watch and play it back if there are any parts that you need to review again. Thank you for joining me, and have a great rest of your day.